Hello, I'm Faye Waterman, the Conversation Curator, and my guest today is Lorrie Brook. And Lorrie is a relationship architect. But I'm going to ask Lorrie to share a little bit of her background first before she talks about what she does as a relationship architect. Welcome, Lorrie, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me today, Faye. It's really nice to be here.
Now, Lorrie, let's talk about where you come from and some past experiences that you've had, please.
So, for me professionally, my background is in family law, and I call myself a recovering family lawyer. I don't practice anymore, and I haven't practiced now for almost 10 years. But during my training and during the times that I did practice, I spent a lot of time representing children in family law proceedings. So, when mum and dad couldn't come to an agreement and their conflict was so high or there was allegations of some sort, the court would appoint a lawyer for the children. And I think through that work, that's what's led me to where I am today. Because at the end of the day, if we can all help and improve the way that we communicate, then that's going to be beneficial for our children. And I think on top of all of that, Faye, I'm a wife, I'm a mum, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, and relationships are part and parcel of our lives. And it's learning how to communicate, how to relate to different people in our lives that really gives us the skills that we need to be able to teach our children how to communicate better and how they can resolve conflicts, face challenges, and actually also share the good times with other people.
And how important is it to have good communication between the adults so that the children learn to communicate well?
I think it's essential. Our relationships are based on our ability to communicate. If you've got a good, healthy communication relationship, your relationship is going to be strong and healthy. If your communication is poor, then it's going to impact your relationships as well. And that's what our children learn. Our children learn how to talk from us. They learn how to fight from us. They learn how we walk away when we don't want to face a confrontation. They learn how to slam doors when we're getting frustrated. They learn all of those skills from us in the household. And that's what we want to change.
And from your experience, Lorrie, how hard is it sometimes when you were working with children, particularly in the court system? How hard was it for you to, I don't know what I want to say here, but rescue those children? Was it that you wanted to rescue those children, or was it that you wanted to educate them? What was it really you were fighting for?
I think it was twofold. And I've never thought of it that way, but it is about protecting the children, but also showing them that it doesn't have to be this way. The problem is, though, you could speak to a child and tell them it doesn't have to be that way. But if they're going back to a home environment where it is like that, that's what they're going to learn. And if you just stop and think about how we act now and how you communicate, how you fight, how you relate to other people, you can see in their traits that you've learned from when you were growing up. So you can see how it all kind of just folds into our day-to-day living. And if we're not aware of it and we're not conscious of those patterns, then that's when they get to take over. And as much as you want to protect them and wrap them up and say everything's going to be okay, you don't have to be involved in this. You've got to be able to give the parents the skills, the people that they're living with.
How difficult is it to teach the parents to communicate on a better level when they're emotionally so high, their intelligence is low? Their emotions are so high, their intelligence is low. Not saying that they're not intelligent people, but their emotions take away that intelligence. So, how difficult is it to work with parents who are in that situation?
It depends on whether they want the change or not. If you're coming across someone who is highly emotionally invested, has that low emotional intelligence at that particular point in time and doesn't want to change, you can't. It's like trying to bang your head against a brick wall. Nothing's going to happen. But if they want to see change, then you can get them around. It's not easy. It's no different to working with someone who is, would be addicted to alcohol or cigarettes or gambling or something like that. If they don't want to make that change, you can't do it for them. They need to be willing to take some self-responsibility and say, hey, I want to see a better outcome here.
And they're responsible for the outcome that they have. They choose it, really. And sometimes they choose their outcome, but sometimes they might blame someone else because it didn't work the way they wanted it. Do you see that very often?
Yeah, but blaming is so easy to do. Like, we can always blame other people. If they didn't say this, then I wouldn't have needed to act that way. Or if they didn't do this, then I wouldn't have said that. Blaming is so easy. But if we want to see change, we can only change one thing, and that is ourselves. We have no control over anyone else.
We are responsible for our consequences. We are responsible and we choose. We have choices to choose to make the changes. And if we choose not to make those changes, I say we have no right to blame someone else for that. But it happens, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So now let's bring you to where you are today, Lorrie. And you are now known as relationship architect.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have a podcast which you talk to people about relationships and all those sorts of things, which I think is a fabulous thing to have, a podcast, so that people can go and refer to it. But talk a little bit about the experiences that you have as a relationship architect and the sorts of things that you would like to see happen when there's great communication being taught.
For me, the relationship architect has come about because at the end of the day, we can create the change that we want to see. And we can, at any particular point in time, reset our relationships, decide to turn up differently, and decide to make a change in the way that we are showing up and actively listening and being involved in any relationship that we have. And that is what I've wanted to create with the relationship architect, is a place where you can hit that hard reset and go, hey, this isn't the person I want to be. I want to be somebody different, and I want to make a positive change here. So through that work, I work with couples who are still together but want a better relationship, are having trouble having those difficult conversations. And I do mediations from a relationship and a family law perspective as well. But ultimately, where this all comes down to is that if we can change the way we communicate, we are going to make a better example for our children. We are going to show them a better way to communicate. And that's what they're going to learn. That's what they're going to take into their relationships. And they can only improve on it. That's the thing. They can only improve on it.
But they've got to see by example, don't they?
Yeah.
It's not that you watch your parents, and I can say sometimes I'll say something and I think, oh, I sound like my mother.
Yes.
Or I'll hear my daughter say something and I'll say, oh, she sounds like me, and you think, oh, really? So it's really interesting, the things we take when we're growing up into our adulthood, and because it becomes a habit, we don't realize that we're actually doing it, do we?
No, not at all. Not at all. But as parents, we are the ones who teach our children to talk.
Yes.
And we teach them how we talk, which is what we learn from our families. And that's how those cycles continue.
Yes, so true. What would be a couple of things that you would say to parents out there who were struggling to communicate well with each other? They're trying, but they really just don't get it. what would you say to them, Lorrie?
There's a few things. The first thing is don't try and solve a problem when you are emotionally invested in it. Because when you are highly emotionally invested in the issue, all you're doing is butting heads because you've got no ability to see any perspective. So give yourself time, give yourself space, walk away, calm down. Don't use that time to come with other arguments that supports your position, but just give yourself time to stop thinking about it altogether and come back together. And agendas are a great way to solve conflict when you can keep to a structured process. This is the issue. I'm talking first, you're talking next. We'll go away, we'll think about what we each said, and then we can come back and talk about it a little bit more. That is a great way to have these structured conversations in a relationship environment so that the children also get to see it.
It's so easy when you say it, but it's not easy when people are in that emotional state to do it. So therefore, what they need is someone like you, a relationship architect, to mediate for them so that they can actually step back and look at the real issues and remove the emotions so that they can deal with the actual issue that is going on, not the emotion.
Yeah, but it's one of those things too, Faye, that once you've done it a few times and you've practiced it and you know what that process is, you can then do it yourself.
Yes.
Like it doesn't have to be having someone come into your relationship forever and a day. It's about giving you those skills and learning what that is going to look like and feel like for you, because it will feel weird. It will feel strange to start off with because you've never done it before.
Great advice there, Lorrie. Thank you so much. There's so much more that we can talk about, and we will do that in the future. But for now, thank you so much for the fabulous advice. And for anyone listening out there, if you are in a situation where your emotions are high and you really can't think about how to resolve it, get in contact with Lorrie so that she can talk you through the process and help you change whatever it is that you want to change.
Thank you so much, Faye.
That's my pleasure. I'm Faye Waterman, the Conversation Curator, and I will be back with another conversation. Bye for now.